Can a realtor be successful in both residential and commercial? Well, a lot of people would say no, but we found somebody who would say yes. Stay tuned. This episode of Keeping It Real is brought to you by Real Geeks. How many homes are you going to sell this year? Do you have the right tools? Is your website turning soft leads into interested buyers? Are you spending money on leads that aren't converting? Well, Real Geeks is your solution. Find out why agents across the country choose Real Geeks as their technology partner. Real Geeks was created by an agent for agents. They pride themselves on delivering a sales and marketing solution so that you can easily generate more business. Their agent websites are fast and built for lead conversion with a smooth search experience for your visitors. Real Geeks also includes an easy-to-use agent CRM. So once a lead signs up on your website, you can track their interest and have great follow-up conversations. Real Geeks is loaded with a ton of marketing tools to nurture your leads and increase brand awareness. Visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod and find out why realtors come to Real Geeks to generate more business. Again, visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod. And now, on to our show. Hello and welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I am your guide and host through the show. And in just a moment, we're going to be speaking with Pieter Hanson. But before we get to Pieter, just a couple of quick reminders. Actually, I have something new to say. I normally say the same things every time, but I have a new thing. So it was come to my attention that via the different podcast apps, that only about 300 of our 515 episodes show up. That is a limitation of what's called an RSS feed. It's not, we would love to have all of our episodes available. So we actually do, but you're only going to see the most recent 300 in, whatever podcast app you might be listening to us in. So if you want to actually go back further, and many people do, because the idea was to create this library of content that would really be applicable anytime. So I'd love for you to even go back into the archives. Well, how do you do that? Well, you can go to our website, keepingitrealpod.com. Every single episode we've ever done is there. And that's probably the only place you can find all of them until they update technology and allow for more than 300 episodes to pass through a feed. But anyway, you guys can go to the website if you want to. We'd love to have you check out the website. We're very proud of it. And you can listen to every episode we've ever done. So thank you for that. Also, please leave us a review and tell a friend. But let's get to the main event, my conversation with Pieter Hanson. Today, my guest is Pieter Hanson with Real Broker in Quad Cities, which, if you're not familiar with the Quad Cities, this is what borders Illinois and Iowa. There's 4 cities, as you might suspect, 2 on each side. This is like the northwest corner of Illinois and the northeast corner of Iowa. But let me tell you more about Pieter. Now, after high school, Pieter joined the U.S. Navy. After his time in the Navy, and then he went to college, he actually worked in retail and also then private banking. In 2007, he resigned from the bank and opened a bar and grill that is still thriving today, 18 years later. Congratulations for making it through the pandemic. Also amazing. But that's not all. He then got his real estate license in both Illinois and Iowa in that same year. So he worked for a local hometown broker in their commercial division from 2007 to 2014. In 2014, he transitioned to the residential division where he practiced both commercial and residential real estate. And in 2022, if that wasn't enough, he partnered with a local microbrew and opened another restaurant just this last October, 2 Octobers ago. He has a long-term girlfriend named Julie, also my mom's name, who owns a dog kennel with her sister and they live on the property. He enjoys golfing, fishing, hunting, and casual Jeep and or Harley riding on the weekends. He has 1 daughter and 3 grandkids who live here in my hometown. Well, not my hometown, but where I live, Chicago. Please follow Pieter at his website, which is peterhansonrealtor.com. Pieter spelled Pieter. So Peter with an I at the beginning, Pieter Hanson, realtor.com. You can also find him on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We will have links to all of that in the show notes. He's probably the only Pieter Hanson, which is Pieter. So you can find him really easily, or you can click the links to his social media right from our show notes. Peter, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Really excited to speak with you. It's amazing all the things you've done, and I think a lot of what you've done in your career are some of the hardest professions. I'm really impressed. Usually, people have success at one thing. You are consistently having success in a number of buckets, and I am always so impressed by talking to people who operate at a high level. So tell us. So from if I understand your story correctly. You went into the Navy, came out, went to school, then had a couple of jobs in retail and then in banking. And then why the switch to real estate? Just out of curiosity.
So I opened up the bar and grill at the same time I got my real estate license. And the bar was always a dream of mine to do. I had an opportunity. I liked my job at the bank, and the bank is still a great friend of mine and a great resource and a great community bank here in the Quad Cities. But I was getting more and more responsibility that I really didn't like. I was having to work later hours, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do this bar thing. I'm going to get out of the bank, and I need some income. And I thought, I've always thought real estate, people who are successful were successful because of not necessarily how smart they were, but how many people liked them. And I felt like I had a pretty significant sphere of influence, a pretty great background from the banking and the retail side and how to deal with customers and people and the public. And so I thought, hey, I'm going to open this bar and I'll ease into the real estate thing. So that's kind of how it worked.
It's amazing that you took on two things at the same time, both of which required tremendous activity. However, maybe one feeds the other in a certain way. I suspect it's probably been times where patrons of the bar have ended up becoming clients as well. I'm assuming that happens once in a while.
So to your point, I got into real estate. If you people can remember, 2007, 2008 was probably the worst time to ever make this change. And I told myself that if I can survive in 2007 and 2008 going forward in real estate, if I can survive then, I am going to be positioned perfectly to survive when times are good. And we know that that's a cyclical thing, and it's going to drop and up and drop and down. And so I chose that as a challenge and an opportunity to thrive. And I do think that there are some parallels between the bar and real estate. However, when I went into real estate, it was in the commercial division.
Oh, and that's right. Yeah.
And around the Quad Cities, the commercial division is a good old boy network, if you know what I mean.
I was here in Chicago too.
I was a newcomer with no experience, and I really had to scrape and fight for everything that I got. Having said that, all these people that I'm meeting through the bar and all these new relationships I'm establishing are asking me if I can help them buy a house. And I thought to myself, if I can sell $1 million building, I can sell a house. Well, my broker didn't allow that.
Sure.
The commercial broker that I worked for said, you're a commercial agent, you refer all those. So I started referring those leads. And finally, in 2014, I actually added up the commission that I would have received had I not referred them. And I thought, this is dumb. I got to get out of commercial and into residential. So that's how that worked.
Wow. And now you do both.
And now I do both. Yeah. So one of the things that when I got my license and I worked for a local broker, one of the things, and I actually went from the commercial broker to the residential broker was the same broker. But the company policy is that you can sell residential and commercial, but you can't sell commercial and residential. And the way they explained it to me was that if you went to the ER to get your finger stitched up because you cut it with a knife, you'd let a thoracic surgeon sew your finger up, right?
Sure.
But if you went to the emergency room for to have a heart transplant, you wouldn't let an ER doc do that.
Right.
And so they kind of compare that if you can do commercial, you can handle residential, but the same does not always work the opposite way.
How do you feel about that now? Do you agree with that? I will tell you my opinion. It depends again on the sector of commercial, because certain sectors are certainly more complicated, and industrial buildings and land development and some of those things to me are like almost like alien and foreign. But I don't totally disagree with that. I think there is some intelligence there that a residential agent ought to, in many cases, refer to a commercial broker. But a commercial broker, certainly, I think the training tends to be a lot stronger for commercial. There tends to be just a lot. You're serving a lot more masters in a deal. There's a lot that can go wrong, and you just are exposed to a lot of different things. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts today on that policy?
I do agree with you 100%. A commercial agent, commercial is buyer beware. So there aren't as many disclosures and cover your rear end kind of documents, but at the same time, it's a slower sales cycle, and you really have to learn to think outside the box, get creative, and understand spreadsheets and how accountants feel, because a commercial decision, a commercial building is sold on a financial basis based on the numbers, not, oh, I love this building, I have to have it. Whereas a house is a very emotional decision, and as long as you qualify, you can make it happen.
Yeah, it's amazing. I have my brother-in-law is a commercial broker in Tampa, and he works with a lot of retail and shopping centers and things of that nature. And so, which is a little closer, I guess, in some ways to residential, maybe. But it's, he can work on deals for 2 or 3 years before they close. And then when they close, it's a wonderful day, but it is a lot of hand wringing and sweating for those 3 years while he's waiting.
For sure.
So the residential provides probably more stability, and also just there's maybe just more opportunity there in certain markets.
Well, and the transaction is way more fun too. There's nothing more satisfying than helping a first-time home buyer or helping somebody find a home for their new family that they absolutely love, and you get to work directly with them, and it's not as intimidating, and it's more stressful in certain circumstances, but it's also more fun.
And by the way, we should also mention that you had a health challenge in the mid 90s, which I'm curious if you're willing to share a little bit about that, sort of how that has impacted you, your life, and your priorities. Sure. I didn't mention that, of course, earlier.
So I was working at a local clothing store, which was for those people in Chicago, the old Mark Shale type of store, a high-end clothing store. And the gentleman that owned it was about 10 years older than me and was an amazing mentor when it came to customer service and work ethic and doing the right thing at the right time. So I worked for him for 12 years. And towards the end of my tenure there, I got very sick and ended up having a bone marrow transplant at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. And that was a pretty scary experience because the mortality rate at that time wasn't super great for what I was going through. But I survived. I'm here. And the lesson that I took out of that is that, one, never give up and always have faith that things will work out. Two, never worry about stuff you have no control over, because it's not worth your sweat equity. And three, live every moment like it was your last, and take chances and work hard, and it'll all work out.
I couldn't add on to that at all. That sounds a pretty great credo to live one's life. I want to talk about your success in a sense of achieving the goals that you set out for, not necessarily anyone else's measure of success. You do a number of different things, you do them well. And I'm curious in real estate, sort of, if you for our listeners, what are some of the things that you or activities or thought processes that you have that you think separate you from maybe other agents that aren't having that kind of success? Or what might you coach somebody to start doing or do more of in 2024?
One of the biggest things is commitment. And to your point, when we were talking about the other businesses that I was in, I was married to that first bar that's still thriving today, 24/7. I was always there. I had to be. And so the real estate, my first couple years in real estate, my transactions were 4 and 5 because I wasn't dedicating myself to the real estate, but it was allowing me to have this in the background, do as much as I can when I can. And then as I got further along in the bar and grill and had a management team and could step away from that a little bit, lo and behold, my transactions went from 4 to 8 to 18 to 28 to 36. And the more transaction I had, the less time I spent at the bar. So
Sure.
commitment, I think, is committing yourself to it is the biggest thing. The second thing is having a support network at home that allows you to answer that phone call every time it rings, to leave somewhere on a Sunday afternoon when you're watching the football game and show a property, to stay up late at night and put multiple offers together, and to solicit the help of your family if in fact you need some help to get something done. So the family network has to totally understand what you're doing and why you're doing it and be committed to your success as much as you are.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Realtors tend to be. It's tough to set boundaries as an agent. It's tough to set a schedule because, of course, things fly at you in real time, and they often seem very urgent, and sometimes they are urgent, and so it becomes challenging for agents. And I think back to what you said about sort of being a part-time agent initially, and I think it's one of those things which I hear this a lot because I talk to a lot of new people who just passed their exam, and they say, "Hey, I'm just going to be part time for now. I have this other job. I need the steady income." And I always say, I completely understand. I mean, you have to pay your bills. You have responsibilities, and I say it's just a harder path. It's a tougher path because you're now having to do these two things, which both are really full time jobs. Even if you think the real estate thing is just part-time, it's still going to come up when it comes up, and it's going to be not probably in alignment with your other job schedule. And there are lots of people that will say, just quit the other job and do real estate full-time. And that would be great in an ideal world for everyone who wouldn't be too much stressing about paying the bills. But that's not the majority of us. So I'm glad to hear, I love hearing success stories where people, because it's so easy to tell somebody, well, just quit and do this all and you'll be fine. And
Right.
maybe you will. And if you do the hard work, you probably will be. But boy, it's a stressful, tough few years as you get into real estate. As you know, 4 and 5 transactions does not make much of a salary, but it
No.
certainly gets you on the path. And
Yeah.
but it allowed you to then probably find the confidence or the reasoning to go, I can do this, and now I can have somebody helping me here at the bar, at a bar restaurant. So yeah, the part-time versus full-time thing is always such an interesting conversation because people get very adamant about their opinion one way or the other, what somebody should do. And I always say, hey, your financial situation better than me, but hopefully in an ideal world, you get to a place where you can do this full-time. But it's a tough path. I mean, it just
Right.
is.
I like the people that say to me, hey, I'd love to get into real estate. What, how do you like it? And I tell them da 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 da, and they say, yeah, I'm just really looking for more flexibility, a more flexible schedule. And
Yeah.
I react the way you just did, and I'm like, well, you're right. You do get some flexibility. You'll never miss your kid's Christmas concert. You'll never miss their ball game. You'll never miss their first communion. But guess what? When it's over, you're going right back to work if you're going to do anything.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. It's how, I was just at the gym just before I came here, and I have a trainer, and it's kind of funny. It's similar to what you just said. We were talking about training, And we do like weightlifter style workouts. It's a lot of heavy weights, resistance, things like that. And I was telling my trainer, been with her 3.5 years, and I was kind of laughing because it is kind of funny. I said, working out is all about how much pain can you tolerate, and pain maybe isn't the right word. Discomfort, I guess, is maybe a better word. How much discomfort can you tolerate, and are you pushing against resistance? And that's how you build muscle. And it's pretty much, as you know, of course, and our listeners know, how you get better at any skill, really. But you have to be willing to tolerate some discomfort. You have to be willing to go to the child's recital and then go, I got to race home after this, and I've got work to do. And yes,
Yep.
that is not fun for anybody to do, but it is certainly what is required. And so, realtors, are a lot of times only learn that once they're in, and then they're like, oh, I didn't realize the commitment.
For sure.
Would love to talk about, again, back to sort of your success, being fully dedicated, and understanding what is required. Actually, let's talk about this year, because you talked about the market, of course, being cyclical. We are in a difficult market. I would assume in most, or sorry, difficult time to be a realtor in most markets in the country. Occasionally I talk to somebody who's up 50% for the year, and they're the unicorn. Most people are struggling. At least our agents are struggling here. We have almost 800, and almost all of their productions were down for this year, which of course is not fun. But I think you brought up a really good point when you said that you started in 2007. For those that again don't remember, that was a very difficult time. Now, in a way, though, it was really the best possible time for you, because as people were exiting the business, you were getting in, and you were like, if I can survive this, then it's going to be really not as scary the next time when it's a
For
down
sure.
market. And I'm curious how you view today's market. We're seeing a lot of agents exit the business. We have a holding company, which is for agents who don't practice. We went from like 800 agents in our holding company, which is just, a place to hold the license, to over 1,000 within this year. Just so many people leaving from the industry. Curious, like, if what you think about that, and how agents could, stop, exiting the business.
I feel like and I don't know this to be true, but I suspect this to be true, that if you looked at the jump that you made in the past year from 800 to over 1,000, if you looked at those agents, my guess is that a majority of those agents have not been realtors for 5 years. And so
Yeah.
I feel like they got in the business when times were great, and deals were being thrown at people at a crazy rate, and you had to be an absolute idiot not to get some deals done and make it, But now they're actually having to work. They're having to market themselves. They're having to work weekends, do open houses, do things to get creative. And they're like, God, this sucks. I'm working way too much. And so it's almost like attrition. They just get the retention going and get out. And I think that's probably, and I'm down this year as well a little bit, but I opened a new restaurant last year, and we opened a new brokerage, and I left the old firm and started the new firm. And there's reasons for that. But I feel like those of us that have been in the business for 15, 20, 25 years are a little bit insulated, because we've got our residual clients and our reputation. And so I feel that the economy does affect it some, but the veterans are a little more insulated than the newcomers.
Yeah, and speaking of a veteran in a different way, I forgot to, of course, thank you for your service as a Navy man, to our country and to all of our listeners here. So thank you also for that.
Thank you.
Well, so yeah, let's talk a little bit about activity. So if you were a brand new agent today, and I want to sort of set this up. So Pieter was talking about, a lot of these people who have, like in our case, our holding company. Yes, he's right. The vast majority of people who have joined our holding company recently are people who either were nearing retirement or just like, I'm done, or they were within their first few years. not doing well and realizing they didn't want to pay their MLS dues going forward. So, of course, that all that factors in. But if I was a brand new agent today, I would actually be excited because I would. There are people leaving the industry, which means there's market share to pick up, and I think now is the time where agents should really step on the gas in their marketing efforts, in their outreach efforts, to try to pick up some of these clients that maybe they're not buying right this moment or selling right this moment, but they will be at some point, and their realtor may be exiting and leaving, or just not working as hard right now. That's another thing that happens. Even successful agents in down markets tend to relax a little bit more. So I think now is a really good time to get in, although not certainly an easy time. Curious your thoughts.
So I couldn't agree with you more regarding that. I do feel that when it comes to work ethic and marketing and timing, when in 2007, when I got my license, Facebook was just kind of a brand new thing. And the kids today that are starting to be realtors, and even the late 50s, early 60s agents like myself, are having to adapt to the digital age. The computer isn't going anywhere. The Facebook is only going to get stronger. Marketing and digital media is incredible, how you can get your name out there and shoot high quality videos. And if you can embrace that and you can run with that, you will be successful going forward. I struggle with that a lot, but I happen to have a team that is very good at it, that we collaborate together, and they're helping me succeed in that arena. But I feel like agents today are poised way better than those of us that used to look in an MLS book, literally a paper book, no online stuff, and now your client comes to you more educated than you sometimes on a property because of the information that they can find. So I feel like the agents today are really set up for success if they take advantage of the digital, because if they don't, they're going to be left behind. And the AI, for that matter, that's a whole nother issue. But how amazing is AI? And as scary as it is, it's going to be incredibly helpful in our industry, used properly.
I used ChatGPT this morning to calculate the probability of. I've met. My producer for this podcast is a lovely woman, Zana. She's been with me for 4 years. She lives in Kosovo. She's originally from Albania. And it just so happens that I met another woman, unrelated to Zana, independent, who Zana I've never met in person. We meet we talk almost every day virtually. Of course, she lives in Kosovo. And I met a woman recently who not only knows Zana, which is complete coincidence, went to school with her, worked in the same office as her, at the same company even at one point, and now lives in Chicago. And I said, I wonder what the probability of that is. And so I put ChatGPT to work, and it didn't come up with, it gave all sorts of interesting equations, and it eventually said it was 1 in 4 quadrillion was the probability, which I suspect is probably, I didn't even know if quadrillion was an actual word, but I guess it comes after billion, trillion, I guess quadrillion. But regardless, it's a very low probability. But I love that ChatGPT could figure out some estimate of that. And I think as realtors, the AI is going to be really cool, because it will allow us to be more persuasive in our listing descriptions. It already does that. It allows us to maybe give some great marketing ideas. If I was an agent, I go, I don't really know what I should do today, I would go straight to ChatGPT and say, hey, can you give me 5 activities that I could do right now as a realtor that might be a good idea for outreach or meeting new people, or I want to add more people to my database. Where should I go? And there's all sorts of great suggestions that a ChatGPT can have. I have a friend of mine who's a CEO of a digital storage company, and he doesn't have a chief marketing officer because he has built one inside of ChatGPT. So I'm our chief marketing officer, so maybe my job's on the line. But he's doing that now. So there are some really cool things coming, and I'm curious. All this being said, my question is, where do you think the important skills that a realtor is going to need or needs today or needs for the future, if it isn't, hey, I'm the gatekeeper to this building or this property? Yes, they have access to pretty much all of that data and information now. Zillow basically changed that whole dynamic. But what are the skills that you think realtors are still valued and useful for today?
Every deal is different, and even though it might be cookie cutter to a certain extent, there's certain steps that need to happen. People don't know how to negotiate. First of all, they have no clue. They talk too much. There's a lot of things that a realtor does if he educates his buyer seller properly to ensure that transaction is going to go smoothly and that everything is anticipated. I like to find myself a problem finder, not a problem solver. I want to find the problem before it happens, and so I don't have to solve it on the spot. And I think people that try to do this on their own leave money on the table, frustrate themselves, and inevitably lose deals because they don't know what they're doing. And everyone thinks with the internet they can handle it, and some people probably can, honestly. But I think the majority of the general public needs us desperately.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of soft skills or interpersonal skills that come up that are really important. Stress management, emotional regulation, understanding how to deal with adversity, and urgent bad news that comes up. And in every transaction, there's some bad news that happens at some point, and it's going to come up a lot of times unexpectedly. And then it's about, how do I make sure my client is able to remain stable during this, or what can I do to keep my client moving forward, or at least understanding sort of the gravity of what's going on without succumbing to, sort of, being completely stressed out, because of course nobody wants a stressed out client.
Sure.
I bought a condo three or so years ago, and even though I've been in this industry, I mean, I'm not a practicing agent, but I am licensed. But even being around top realtors like you and all the agents here, we have about 800 agents at our company. You would think I would have handled that a lot better, and I did not. I was stressed. I was like convinced I was making a horrible decision. I had to basically, at some point, I sort of went to that philosophy of an attorney who represents himself as a fool for a client. So I said, I'm not going to represent myself, because I am not the most objective party here, and I'm just getting too emotional. And it made me really appreciate realtors that are excellent at keeping things, decoding the information that's being sent from the other side, putting it in a way that doesn't make me completely nuts or the client completely stress out. So I think those interpersonal skills, ChatGPT hasn't yet solved for that. Maybe it will someday. I don't know, but certainly the human skills are really, really important. And it made me realize that after my last purchase.
Well, and I think I agree with everything that you said. And I align myself with Real because of those technology options between the knowledge library, their revenue share, their Bolt, their AI. This company is leading the industry in what's happening in the future. And as much as I am a hometown guy, and as much as I am a local, shop local, be local, I own businesses, I want people to support me in this industry, I just don't feel like the local brokers have the funds and to keep up with technology and provide their agents with life-changing financial security and future that everybody's going to need and need to have if they're going to succeed in this industry.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% as well. I would like to talk about customer service actually, not customer service during a sale. So we're going to talk about customer care, I guess maybe is the better word. I'm not sure what the official word is, but keeping in touch in between transactions. So we know somebody buys a home, depending on your market, They may be moving 5 to 10 years. Who knows? Every market's a bit different, but there's some predictable patterns there. So you're going to have this period of time where likely they're not going to actually need you day to day to help them with a transaction. But what are your suggestions for making sure that the client doesn't forget who you are, number one? And we say that sort of as a bit being a bit facetious, but there are amazing studies out there that will show there's a certain percentage of people who like their realtor, the transaction closes, and then 2 years later they're like, I don't remember who our realtor was. It's a much higher number than I've ever thought. Happened to my parents. They sold a property in out east. And great realtor. And then 2 years later, I go, what was that per realtor's name? My dad's like, I have no idea. So that is,
Sure.
that happens. And so I'm curious on how you think about making sure that doesn't happen, of course, with your clients.
So I tend to, if you see something, say something is my attitude. If I think that I need to call DJ, I haven't talked to DJ. I just passed DJ on the interstate. I saw him at the grocery store. I used to think to myself, oh, I got to call DJ. And then 2 days later, I'd run into DJ and I'd say, oh, DJ, I was just going to call you. And DJ's like, yeah, whatever. Well, I pick up that phone and I make that call. And Julie knows that sometimes I sit in that garage for 45 minutes after I've been home at night because I made that quick phone call to DJ and we struck up a conversation and talked for half an hour. So if you think about something, call them. One. Two, I send out postcards because I like to run into DJ at the grocery store and say, hey, I got your Thanksgiving postcard. Thanks for thinking of me. Boom. I know it's corny. The mail is somewhat antiquated, but I still use it. I'm older. I'm comfortable with it. The most important thing, though, I think is front of mind. All the avenues that we have with Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, posting things online that aren't asking necessarily for someone to respond, but maybe giving them a little knowledge about the community. Hey, you guys have seen this bank building forever. This was built in the 1800s, front of mind stuff. So people say to themselves, oh, there's Peter, without actually going out of their way or opening a piece of mail or answering the phone. So, and I need to get better at it myself. And then lastly, card writing. I go through spurts where I'll write out 40 cards and I'll mail, 10 of them a week. And then there's times where, I haven't done that since September, but I need to do it again, and I'll get motivated and I'll have a day and I'll just knock out a bunch of them. That I think is impactful too.
How many handwritten cards do you receive? Not ones you've sending out for. How many do you get just estimating in a given year?
10.
Okay, so less than one a month.
Yes.
Mine is much less than 10. I think I'm at like 2 to 3 a year. And again, I'm not complaining. But I'm so honored when anybody spends 2 minutes to write me a card. I don't know what it is about receiving a card in the mail, a handwritten card, but boy, there's a tangible feeling there that is way beyond a digital, hey, I saw that you went on vacation, a little, Facebook like or whatever. Those are great too, of course, but there is something really, really powerful about somebody wrote this card, they put a stamp on it, they addressed it, they dropped it in the mail. There's a lot of steps there that are super obvious to somebody when they receive that. And I think it's kind of baked into the experience. So I am with you. You talked about mailers. I'm a huge fan of mailers. Number one, because most people aren't anymore. As you say, people are more digital. Of course they are, which is exactly why mailers should happen, because you're not getting that much mail anymore. I'm not getting much mail anymore.
Right.
I mean, even the junk mail is toned down. I'm like, what's happening with all these catalog companies? I guess they're all online, but I don't even get a lot of the catalogs anymore. And so I'm like, wow, if somebody were to send me a postcard, I would absolutely see it. Now, maybe 15 years ago when the mail was just, insane, maybe it would get lost in all of the catalogs and junk mail. There's not as much anymore. So I think it's a perfect time to send a mailer. And to your point, this is a way, if you're sending mailers once a month, once every few months, it's pretty hard for someone to forget about you, even if it's just a postcard, because
Right.
your name's there. Every realtor sends out an email newsletter. And I'm not saying that's a bad idea. It's a great idea, but everyone also does that. So you want to do things that maybe are a little bit more than just that. I'm not saying don't
Right.
do an email newsletter. But I love that. And handwriting a card, I don't know that there's a better way to tell somebody I care than
Right.
even just, hey, I was thinking about you. Hope you're doing well, whatever.
Well, and
And
at buy sell build QC, between Sarah and Andrea, my partners, we've got things planned into the fourth quarter of 2024. Whether it's mum delivery like we did this year, we bought 500 mums, and the back of my truck was filled for 2 days delivering these mums, and people just absolutely loved them. You don't even need to say hi to them. Put it on their porch with a sticker on the thing and a postcard in it, and they would text you and they'd say, dude, we love the mum. Thanks for thinking of us. I mean, little things like that.
yeah.
And our brokerage does those things extremely well.
What's really fun about that stuff too, and I talk a lot about these kind of fun activities that realtors could do. They don't have to be expensive. They don't have to even cost anything, really. Picking up the phone and saying, hey, I'm thinking about you. How are you doing? What's going on? And not necessarily, hey, you need to buy or sell right now? I'm your guy. But calling and just saying, hey, I was thinking about you. How are you? Or I saw this thing on LinkedIn. Maybe it looks like your company just did this something big, or you got a promotion, or whatever. Those are always the things I think that win the race. And also, at the very least, even if it doesn't necessarily lead to a transaction, you're going to feel good about yourself when you do something nice, like drop off a mum or two on someone's doorstep, and then they find it later. Boy, I mean, you almost can't put a price tag on how successful that kind of campaign is, because people will be talking about it. Like, who gets just random flowers from people? Nobody, only from your spouse or partner or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Those are the only people giving anybody flowers. And so the
Right.
idea of even just doing a little thing like mum, and mums are cool too. They're unique. I love that idea.
Yeah. We have a good time doing it too, and it's a big collaboration in the office, and it brings everybody together to work under one roof for a common goal, and it's great team building, and it's just fun.
And, it's funny. We should probably talk about this only because it's the end of the year, and this is, holiday cards and holiday gifts, and agents always struggle. Should I do something for my clients? There's pessimistic people that will say, well, if you do it once, you're going to have to do it every single year forever. It's like, well, I don't know. That doesn't sound so bad. But for some people, they struggle with this. I'm curious on your thoughts about end of year sort of stuff with clients. Do you do them? Do you wait until a different time of the year? Or, just curious.
Traditionally, some of my partners have had a holiday party, and they're really expensive, and people look forward to them every year, and they say, hey, are you guys having your party this year? And I personally don't do that. I like to reward the client at the time the transaction closes, and depending upon how close they are, the size of the deal, whatever dictates, what I might do for them. But I always do something for them. The remaining time is I might single-handedly call someone, invite them to dinner with Julie and I. And as much as she sometimes doesn't like doing it, we tend to always have a pretty good time, hang out with someone that we don't normally hang out with, and
Yeah.
learn something about that person that we never knew. Generally, that's our takeaway. I never knew that about it, So
Yeah.
we try to do a little bit of that, but I don't do anything at a certain time of year to reward them necessarily.
Yeah. Well, I think that's very encouraging for everyone listening who goes, "Oh my gosh, I didn't do anything for the December holiday season for my clients." It doesn't really matter. Do something throughout the year, and then at the end of the year, not as important, of course. But I love this. This idea of customer service and customer care, really, to me, and hard work and discipline, and all of these things. But customer care is just the key. I think it's really making sure that people, when they think about you, go, wow, my agent knows what's going on in my life, stays in touch with me, and is doing some sort of ongoing communication. And you said something very important. I just want to end on, which was, now we have mobile devices, these super powerful, almost magical devices in our pockets that shoot near perfect video, and essentially for free, the cost of the device. And you can learn a little bit about a building, or maybe a local retailer if you want to support local businesses, or maybe even interview a local business owner, and say, hey, I'd love to just learn about your business or your building or whatever. And you could post a quick 1 or 2 minute video on social media about that, and you could do that every single day of the week if you weren't slammed with clients. And what does
Sure.
that do for your public, the people that are following you? They think of, wow, this person's really into real estate, or they're supporting our local community, they're active, they're doing things. So I am such a fan. I know you said it sort of quickly, and I wanted to go back to talk about the importance of providing value on social media, as opposed to just, hey, look at this home I just sold, which is fine. I just don't think that should be the only thing, because
Right.
whenever I see that stuff, I always go, I don't care.
You got to start somewhere, and you got to do something, even if it's wrong. You'll
Yeah.
learn, but
Yeah.
content becomes so important and so impactful when it comes to people enjoying it and not being annoyed by it.
Couldn't agree with you more. And I think this is a great place to wrap. But before we wrap, I want to make a mention. We have, thousands and tens of thousands of listeners. We're so grateful for them, for sticking with us for as long as we have. But Pieter Hanson, he works for his brokerage is Real, great brokerage, national brokerage, and he and his team are always interested if there are any talent that in that area, any agents that think they might be a fit for Pieter and his team. Please feel free to reach out. They're always looking to expand their reach. Also, if you're an agent that has clients that move in and out of the Quad Cities area, but maybe you don't practice there yourself, certainly reach out to Pieter. And if I were an agent, I would be looking to see where people retire from if they move from the Quad Cities. And then I would be reaching out to Pieter if I was in one of those markets, going, hey, I would love to talk to you about when people leave your market, talking and connecting. So Pieter, of course, would love the opportunity. He's a commercial agent, residential agent. He can do a lot. So if you have businesses that are going in and out of that area, or people going in and out, or if you are an agent and want to maybe join his team and perhaps provide some value, he would love to opportunity to see if you guys would be a fit. So what's the best way that an agent could reach out to you if they want to partner with you in some way?
So certainly the email address, peter@pthanson.com, is a very effective way. Certainly you could reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook as well. Those digital medias provide some privacy, yet get the message across, and I could get back to you. Certainly if you were to ask me for any of my cell phone number, contact number, that way I certainly would provide that for you. And if you're any good at the internet, you can probably find that through Google yourself. So any of those ways would be a great way to get a hold of me. And I'd love to sit down and tell you the real story and tell you my story.
I love that. And remember, Pieter is Pieter. So he's super easy to find. If he was Pieter Hanson without the I, it'd be a little harder. So this actually works to his favor. So he's very easy to find. And he's a wonderful, wonderful man, and very successful in a lot of different areas. And if I were an agent, I would want to talk to you, because I'd go, how do you do it all? What are the secrets? We got through some of those today, but boy, somebody that I would certainly want to be mentored by. So if you're an agent in the area, or if you have clients kind of going in and out of that area, please reach out to Pieter. He would love the opportunity to connect. And also, please reach out to Pieter and thank him for his service to our country. Our military is grossly underappreciated, I believe, on a regular basis. So even if you just want to reach out and say thank you, that would be appreciated for him as well. Pieter, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for coming on our show, spending an hour with us, and really giving us a lot of insight into your business and how you juggle many different businesses, but doing them all really, really effectively. And I love that. Pieter Hanson Realtor is the website. That's PIETERHANSON Realtor.com. We'll have links to all of his social media as well as his website on our show notes. So please reach out. And on behalf of our listeners, want to just thank Pieter for spending time with us today. And on behalf of Pieter and myself, we also want to thank the listeners and the viewers. You guys are the reason we do the show. And if we are planning, speaking of Pieter talking about his planning for 2024, we are planning for 2024 as well. So if there is a top agent in your market, we don't really look for guests anymore because of the popularity of the show. We're really, really lucky that publicists usually come to us, but that means we miss a lot of people. So if there's a superstar in your market, we might not know about them. Let us know. We'll reach out and see if we can get them on the show. So think of the most successful agent in your market as a listener and go, I want to know what that person does. Let us know who that person is. We'll do the rest. But thank you so much, Pieter. A really great conversation, and hope everyone. I don't know when this episode will be released. It'll probably be before the end of the year. So if so, everyone have a happy December holiday season, Happy New Year, all of that. And Pieter, thank you. We will see everybody on the next episode.
Thanks, DJ.